What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Eric Wilson. Today, joined by my co host, Will Cohen. Today, we have a lot to break down. It's been a busy couple of days in the NHL, specifically for the Rangers. We took a huge, devastating loss to the Buffalo Sabres, of all teams, right after beating the league leading Boston Bruins. Then the Rangers became the number one team in the league, and then it kind of all just fell apart. A lot has happened. The Rangers lost. Kaapo Kakko is put on the LTIR. Same with Philip Hedl. Patrick Kane is officially signing with another team. There's a lot to break down. So we're going to get all into that in today's episode. But before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss a notification. If you're watching us on Apple or Spotify, be sure to give us a 5-star review and leave your thoughts down in the comment section below on everything that we're about to discuss today, because it's going to be a decent amount of Rangers news that we're going to be covering. And be sure to follow all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers on Instagram and X. But before we really get into things, Will, how are you doing today? And how are you feeling about that loss last night against the Sabres?
I'm feeling good today. I had to put a lot of kids in the transfer portal. It sucks. There's just a bunch of kids going in. I had to do that for like 3 straight hours. It was terrible. Um, the loss last night, it's one loss. I really don't care. They played a lot of games in the past week. Obviously, they played back to back. And they played the Bruins hard. But you know what? It's one loss. I could care less. I mean, obviously, I do care because Kakko got injured and he's missing significant time. Thank God it's not season ending. Thank God a lot of people thought it was, but I really could care less about that loss outside of the Kakko injury.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get into the Kakko injury a little later on in the episode, but I do want to discuss the game against Buffalo because, yes, like it is just one loss. At the end of the day, the Rangers are still like the top team in the league at this moment. I don't know what Vegas is going to do later tonight. I guess we'll see. Hopefully they lose. I don't remember exactly who they're playing against, but um, as long as they lose, the Rangers will remain as a number one team because neither them nor Boston play tonight. So fingers crossed on that. But like at the end of the day, it is just one loss. But man, was that loss really bad? It was a very frustrating loss, and it kind of seems like everything that the Rangers were building upon kind of just fell apart. The defense was bad. There was no offensive production. Igor and net, he was the only good part, or like the only standout player in my opinion, who really kept us in the game. Like early on, the Rangers were making passes that weren't being completed. The puck was bouncing everywhere. We're giving the puck away. I know throughout the entire game, the Rangers had 5 giveaways, which is really bad. And Igor really just kept his head high. You saw at the end of the game, he slammed his stick against the boards, which for a team that's number one in the league and your goalie's getting that frustrated, I think that really shows something about how much Igor cares about winning these games, which should have been easy games at home against Buffalo, who's not in the playoff spot, getting close to the month of December. I just think it was a really, really bad game from the Rangers. Definitely the most frustrating one to watch so far. And I don't know. I'm very disappointed in the Rangers from that performance, but I'm not sure how you feel just overall based on their performances.
I did say that I really didn't care about it, and I don't. I, I don't, but I do at the same time. It's kind of contradicting. They didn't look good in that first period, and like you said, the puck was bouncing around everywhere. They couldn't keep the puck on their stick. They couldn't get set up in the zone. They were making stupid passes. I know. I think it was Lindgren was trying to make an outlet, and Paterka stole it for the first and scored the first goal, and obviously it was 1-0 after one. Um, they were just making a lot of stupid passes, a lot of blind passes. They couldn't get set up in the zone, like I said before. There was just a lot that was going wrong for them. But at the same time, they did play a lot of hockey in a short span. They played the Penguins last Wednesday, and then they played the Flyers and the Bruins on a back to back. I mean, three games in 4 days is a lot, and it was also a lot of traveling. Obviously, they played in Pittsburgh. They went to Philadelphia, which isn't close, that isn't remotely close to each other. And then obviously they went back home. But it was just a sloppy game altogether. And like you said, Igor slamming his stick, obviously it's not something you want to see. You don't want to see him get frustrated, but he's a proven winner. He's a winner at every single level he's played at, so he's going to get frustrated, but it is a good thing to see because it shows that he cares and he wants to win. And obviously we're 15-4-1, and him getting frustrated at game 20, that's a good sign. It's a good sign for things to come.
I mean, now that I think about it, you look back at last season and you remember when the Rangers had a really bad game and then Jacob Trouba had his infamous helmet throw. It makes me wonder if the Igor stick slam could be the helmet throw of the 2023-2024 season. I mean, it's like, who knows, because the Rangers haven't been playing bad again. It was just one really bad game. But when I say it's a really bad game, I like full emphasis on the really bad part of it. I mean, you look at the defense, Ryan Lindgren and Keandre Miller, they're the two big standouts for me. They really took a step back, especially without Adam Fox being there. The defense has managed to somehow hold together thanks to the big step ups from Lindgren, Miller, Trouba, Gustafson. Even Jones and Schneider have also been stepping up their game to fill the hole without Adam Fox. And I don't think it's 100% confirmed, but I'm like 90% sure that Fox will be playing tomorrow night against Detroit. Is that confirmed, Will?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Vince did confirm that, or he said there's a better chance than 50 that he's going to be playing tomorrow. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So chances are we'll have Adam Fox back, which is a big plus. But you just look back at the last like entire month, basically. I think it was November 2nd that Adam Fox was injured against Carolina. And the Rangers defense has stepped it up. It's one of the big reasons why the Rangers are able to continue winning despite all the injuries they've had, is that you've just been so perfect. And the second one player begins to slip, and I'm specifically calling out Lindgren and Miller based on yesterday's game, it all came crumbling apart. Right off the bat, Buffalo had a lot of scoring chances, a lot. And without Igor, this would have been a lot more than just a 5-1 win. A 5-1 loss, sorry. I'm just so used to saying win at this point during the Rangers season. But even the offense was disappointing. There was that goal, quote unquote, goal by Blake Wheeler, which the refs somehow deemed a hand pass, even though it bounced off of Cooley's elbow. And trust me, as soon as that happened, I made sure to look up the official NHL rules, and a hand pass is clearly defined as either pushing the puck with an open hand or grabbing the puck and throwing it to a teammate, in which the play would initially be called dead. Now, I don't know how an elbow is considered a open hand, but as always, the refs somehow find a way to blow a play dead against the Rangers and prevent them from scoring a goal, because then at that point, it's a 1-1 game. It's an entirely different game where the momentum isn't one-sided. Buffalo doesn't take a 2-0 lead. It doesn't take more than a Zibanejad goal to get the Rangers within the realm of conversation of having a chance of winning the game. But I don't know. It's a very frustrating thing to see as a Rangers fan, where just game after game, the refs just somehow find a way to put the odds against us. And I know we've brought it up in previous episodes, and we're going to say we're not conspiracy theorists. We're not going to say it's rigged against us. But that's one of those things that I can't ignore, and I feel like I need to bring up, because Cooley did not hand pass that. It was deflected in the air. It bounced off his elbow, and it happened to land right in front of Blake Wheeler, where he put it into the net. And if they're going to blow the play dead and take away the goal, good for you, refs. I hope you won whatever bet you placed that night. But I don't know. You watched the game too. What are your thoughts on that play?
Yeah, I was shocked. Initially, when they called it a hand pass, I thought he might have, because Joe Micheletti and Sam Rosen were saying he might have he grabbed the puck out of midair and might have thrown it, but after a replay, it clearly shows he touched his elbow. So if you're going to call that a hand pass, it needs to clearly state in the rules, which it doesn't, that it can't be touched with any body part, with any body part. Like, it can't be touched in the upper body anywhere near your arms. But it wasn't a hand pass. It deflected off his elbow. Like, if a puck hits a player out in front of the goal and his teammate picks it up and scores, it's usually never called that. So either the ref had to have seen something else that we didn't, because I know there is. I mean, them being human, there is going to be error. Maybe he thought it was touched, but I don't know. I think it was. I think it was a horrible call, and they also had another terrible call in the game as well. That Pitlick penalty that they called it interference on, which he was just finishing his check. I mean, I don't know. I just think that there's too many times this season where the refs are just, I don't know. I don't want to say anything with a conspiracy theory, but they're just it's like they're conspiring against the Rangers every single game.
Yeah, I don't know. You look back at yesterday against Buffalo. There's a lot of bad plays by a lot of players. There was a lot of bad officiating, but I think it is time to address the elephant in the room. The worst thing that happened last night, Kaapo Kakko. He looked like he went to go finish a check against a Buffalo player against the boards, missed a little bit, had a little bit of an awkward fall. His leg rotated like a full 90 degrees, the ankle bent, and he went down and he was like writhing in pain. And man, it was hard to watch, watching it live. I immediately was just, as soon as I saw it, I got scared because I saw it live. And before even a replay happened, I was like, yep, he's done. Like, Kakko is not returning to this game. And I will be surprised if he returns this season. Luckily, we've had a little bit more of an update, and it is a serious injury. So it's going to be a long time before we do see Kakko. But according to Laviolette, it's not a season-ending injury. We'll see how his recovery goes because, obviously everyone's different. The recovery time is up to the individual player. So that could change in a couple of weeks, months. We will see. But the initial diagnosis is that it's not season ending. But that was a very gruesome fall by Kakko. And when I saw his leg move the way that it did, I got a little squeamish, I won't lie. But it's one of those losses that the Rangers are just going to have to deal with again. It's been a very injury-riddled season. You look back, it started off with Fox, then Hedel, then Quick, then Igor, then now it's Kakko. And I'm sure I'm missing some too.
Lindgren beginning of the year.
Yeah, Lindgren beginning of the year. It's just so many injuries. It's becoming like comical at this point. We're just every single time we get someone back, like tomorrow night, Fox coming back from LTIR. Who cares? Because we have two other players rejoining it. I don't want to say who cares, but like you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, no.
It's just so many injuries, and the craziest thing is the Rangers somehow keep finding ways to win, and it's kind of scary to think what's going to happen when the team is at full strength. But will we ever reach full strength? Because everyone just keeps acting like they're made of glass. Philip Hedel especially. When was the last time in Philip Hedel's career that he's played a full season? I don't think he ever has. He hasn't, because
I don't think he has either.
He's injured. He's at the fourth concussion of his career at 24 years old. Like, at what point is he going to just like? I feel bad sounding angry at this, but it's like it's a little frustrating when you have a guy come in as your second line center and he doesn't make it more than 6 games into the year, or however many games. I think it was 10 games he played before getting injured, like he does every single season. And I'm just, at this point, as a Rangers fan, I'm fed up with the injuries. Am I happy that we keep winning? Yes, but Kakko being put on LTIR, that's like the last straw. I'm done seeing my fan favorite players miss like half the season because they're getting injured. But obviously, at the end of the day, I hope Kakko is doing well. I wish him a speedy recovery. But Will, I'm sure you have a little bit more to say on the Kakko front.
Yeah, that was. I was, I scroll through Twitter because I do the kind of like live updates kind of things, but I was scrolling through, and all of a sudden from Colin Stevenson, he was like, Kakko's on the other side of the play, just like rolling on the ice, and I was like, oh God, what could have happened? And I just saw the replay, and oh my God, I just almost threw up. A leg is not supposed to do with that. What happened there? That was bad. It was
no, like when the play happened, there was like a very quick frame where it showed him fall.
Yep.
And then there's like one frame of him on the ground, and then it just cut to the offense on the other end.
Yep.
And I was just like, I just remember standing up and screaming at my TV, like, blow the whistle. Like, I know Kakko's still down. I think Sam Rosen said something like Kakko's still down on the ice looking for help.
Yeah,
And
I
I'm just
think
like,
I think he said he like was rolling around on the ice. I didn't know what happened because I didn't even see what you saw because I was just on Twitter, so I didn't see what you saw, and I was just completely shocked, completely
and
shocked.
he didn't even skate off the ice. He had to be like picked up and like
Yeah,
carried off. He didn't put any weight on that leg. I think
yeah,
it was his left leg, if I'm right.
his left leg, yeah, his left leg just completely just rotated, just bent right under him, and it's definitely a torn ACL. Like, I mean, if it's not, it's something to that extent, maybe not like not like I just said to that extent, but maybe not to that extent, but like a little lower. I mean, it looked bad. It was probably a ligament tear of some sort. Like, it was
So
bad.
that's what I'm confused about because when I first saw it, my mind immediately went towards ACL tear. But like obviously me and Will, we're not doctors. I don't want to like speculate on injury diagnoses, but like the fact that it isn't season ending makes me lean towards it's not an ACL tear, but
Mhm.
I don't want to say anything definitive because like what do we know? We
Yeah.
just watch hockey. We didn't go to med school. But like I don't know. Just all I know is it looked bad, and I've seen some pretty gnarly injuries throughout the years. And this is one of the few ones that I really just sat there and I was like, damn,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's gonna be a long time before we see this kid.
Yeah.
And I do want to touch upon because I know Kakko is one of the players that a lot of fans have been really critical of. I'm a big defender of Kakko. I love Kakko. He's one of my favorite players on the Rangers. And a lot of you guys in the comment section in the past have been like, Eric, why are you defending him? He sucks. He's a bust. And, you guys make valid points. He doesn't have a lot of points. He's only scored 3 points in 20 games, split between the first line and the third line. But at the end of the day, hockey isn't only about scoring points. I think he's played great defensively. He's a big player that makes it like I don't want to keep saying the word defensive, but that's really what he just excels at is defense this season. He was on the first line that was supposed to score offense, but Zibanejad and Kreider decided not to do anything. They are doing it now. This is also sidetrack. Everyone who keeps saying that I don't give Kreider any attention, I'm not hating on Kreider. I love Kreider. There's just not a lot to say. Just he's doing good. He gets 2 thumbs up from me. It's really only content when someone plays bad. But at the beginning of the season, neither of them were playing good. Mika and Kreider are both playing phenomenal now with Blake Wheeler. Never thought I would say that.
Yeah.
But like I don't blame Kakko for his failures on the first line. And I don't blame him for his failures on the third line because the third line isn't really meant to score a lot of points. It's Cooley and it's Benino and it's Kakko. It's a hard hitting grinder defensive third line, and Kakko has fit that perfectly.
Yeah.
So when you look at what the Rangers are really losing because of this injury, it's not a lot of point production, but it's a lot of depth and it's a lot of defense. And Kakko has filled that role perfectly. That third line has been incredible recently. Benino has been cooking. Cooley's been cooking, and it's all from a big help from Kakko. So, sure, are you disappointed in a second overall pick for not living up to your expectations? Yeah, I am too. But at the end of the day, he's not a bad NHL player. He might not be a second overall caliber player, but he still has a place on this team and he's earning his place on this team. So taking him out of that is going to disrupt a lot of things. Earlier today, the Rangers called up Johnny Brodzinski and Adam Edstrom, and both are solid, fine players. But you're taking a team that has been winning games left and right, very rarely taking losses. Yesterday's loss was one of 4 in the entire season in regulation, and you're putting in new players. So you have chemistry, you have like rhythm building, and then you take out a player and you put in a new player. That's obviously going to be disrupted and be changed. So people will go on the internet and hate and say, oh, Kakko being taken out on LTIR, who cares? He never did anything anyway. Yes, he did. And he does a lot more than you or I could ever understand, both on the ice and in the locker room. But that's my little rant about Kakko defense. I'm just going to pass it off to you right now, Will.
See, the thing with Kakko is you know, I do feel bad for him because, you know, it was his time to get on that first line, and I think you can't. I've had people in my mentions, blaming Kakko for for the first line failures, but it wasn't just him, and even Mika said it himself. They all, Mika and Kreider are also playing bad, and those guys are the play driver. Well, Mika's supposed to be the play driver, and it sucks because now Kakko sees Lafreniere, and Lafreniere's on that second line. He's breaking out, and he's playing fantastic with Panarin. And Kakko couldn't really get it going with Mika and Kreider, and now he's on the third line and with two more guys that they're more of defensive first guys than points. So is he really going to score a lot of points down there? No, but I do agree it does mess up the chemistry, and you're now inserting a player who's Brodzinski's not of the caliber of Kaapo Kakko, not even close. Like you'll get some production out of him, but it's not going to be like he's not going to play the defense that Kakko does. He's not going to, create offense the way Kakko creates offense sometimes. But like it has to do a lot with chemistry, and I think the Rangers will continue to keep winning, but they're going to miss him a lot this year, and it really does suck that he's missing significant time. I was glad that the injury isn't. I'm glad it's not season ending, and that's that. I guess that's the only thing I can be glad about from that injury. You don't ever want to be glad about an injury, but I'm happy it's not season ending.
Yeah, I just like to. I don't want to say I like to, but sometimes I think back to right before the season started when we were having our preseason discussions and prospects that can be called up, and me and Anthony especially, we were always theorizing about Brendan Othman. And we were like, there's no room for him on the lineup, but God forbid an injury happened. Maybe he could have his time to shine. But I feel like we might have jinxed this right there because there has been a overwhelming amount of injuries since then, and the Rangers have yet to call up Othman. They've relied on Brodzinski for pretty much every offensive injury they've suffered. And looking back on it now, I kind of stand with the Rangers at that point where it is Othman's first season going pro. You don't want to throw him into the NHL. And unless somehow, some way, knock on wood, so I don't jinx again, the Rangers just suffer like an infinite amount of offensive injuries. I don't think we're going to see Othman play in the NHL this year. I think a full season in the AHL is perfect for him. He needs that time to adjust, get ready, play with some players within the organization, players like Brodzinski who have also played for the Rangers, and just get ready for in a year or two to join the team. So I know there's a lot of people on Instagram and X just calling out the Rangers for being like, why not Othman? Well, that's why he's still like 20 years old or somewhere in that range. He's a young kid.
He's 20.
He's 20. He's never played in the NHL. He's only played like 15 games in the AHL. Like you gotta let him develop. You don't want to rush him. You saw what happened with like a lot of players in Rangers history, and like Will, I'll let you give your thoughts on it, but just based on your body language, I'm sure you agree with that.
No, I 100% agree with that, and actually, I was one of those people that right now you could give Brendan Othman a chance. Maybe not, maybe you call him up and then you have him up for like maybe 2-3 games, bring him down, send him back down, and then call up Brodzinski again. But he's also not waiver. Brodzinski, if he goes back down, he has to go through waivers. So I don't know how that's going to handle itself. But I think for Brendan Othman, he has 5 points, 5 goals, 8 assists for 13 points in 18 games played, and he's played very well down there. But like you said, I think it'd be smart to give him a full year because I think the Rangers are learning. I think Chris Drury is learning from the Rangers' past mistakes and calling up players too quickly or not sending them down when they need to be down. But I do think maybe we see him at least for like maybe 1 or 2 games this year, maybe like a cup of coffee, maybe he just gets scratched or a couple times or something like that. Gets a couple practices with the team. But I think it would be very smart for the Rangers to keep him down there. I think, a player like Brendan Othman, you got to let him grow, and you have to let him grow into an NHL role. Have him play down in the AHL. Obviously, he's getting meaningful minutes on the first line and the first power play unit. He wouldn't be getting that up with the big boys. So the Rangers are definitely learning from their mistakes, and keeping him down for an entire year would be the right move for him.
Yeah, and I fully agree with you there, but I think it is time to transition to the final segment of this episode. Kaapo Kakko is a winger that we won't be seeing for a while. The same thing could be said about Brennan Othman, but I'll tell you, there is one right winger out there in the world who the Rangers will not be seeing at all, probably ever again, unless God decides to intervene. And his name is Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane was traded to the Rangers at the trade deadline last season for a very cheap price, a surprisingly cheap price. And he didn't play good. He had a hip injury going on, and he was decent, but he wasn't the Patrick Kane that Rangers fans wanted. At the end of the year, he became a free agent. No one knew what was going to happen. He decided that it was time to take his time to just recover from his hip surgery, see what teams were going to be good or bad about a month or two into the season, and just kind of figure out where he wants to go. And there were some rumors going on, and I don't even know what rumors were true because they're all over the place. First, it was confirmed that the Rangers were a team that were heavily interested. And then it came out that the Rangers were never interested in bringing him back at all. And then just the most recent one was that they had a mutual agreement that they wanted to have a second go at it this season, but the cap space wasn't going to make it work. But then you look today at the fact that reportedly, is it official, Will, or is it still just reports?
I think it's reports. I don't think it's officially official yet.
Okay. But so unofficially official, Patrick Kane has signed with the Detroit Red Wings. And the deal that's on the table is a 1-year deal worth $2.75 million. So now that makes me look back to when I heard that the Rangers and Kane mutually wanted to try it again, but the cap didn't make it work. 2.75. Yeah, the Rangers don't have that right now. But when you look back at last season, Drury did a lot more cap maneuvering to make it happen the first time than he would have had to do this time. So either Drury got lazy or those were false reports because 2.75, the Rangers could have easily made that happen. You get rid of like two players, like bottom of the barrel players, move Barclay Goodrow over to Guangdong, China, and all of a sudden you have Patrick Kane and an extra $1.5 million right there, Um, but I don't know. I know, Will, you were always very anti-Kane to the Rangers. I was always very middle ground where I wouldn't have been actively pushing for it, but if it happened, I wouldn't have been upset about it. But this is kind of like the final piece of the puzzle and the Kane story arc that's been going on this channel for like close to 2 years now. Because don't forget, me and Anthony predicted it way back in the day before last season even began.
I did too with my boy Blake. Shout out Blake. Me and him were talking about it 2 years ago.
But I don't know. It's like one of those things that we just need to cover. Kane to Detroit. The Rangers just so happen to play Detroit tomorrow night. So yeah, if he has a quick flight, maybe we'll be playing against him tomorrow in a Red Wings jersey. He seems to be collecting original six teams like their Infinity Stones. He has Chicago, he has New York, he has Detroit.
He only
Who
needs 3
knows what's going
more.
to happen next? But Will, what are your initial reactions to the supposed, reportedly, Patrick Kane to the Detroit Red Wings?
I was happy that it was over. Since I was little, I've been a Patrick Kane fan. But last year I wasn't very happy with his game. I don't think I mean, obviously he only played 19 games here. It's kind of hard to click in 19 games, but I just didn't think, he was something the Rangers needed. Obviously, then Kakko goes down, but I still think that you could have, I still thought it was the right move to not touch him. I thought I saw reports that Drury said no to him this year, that it just wasn't going to work out. I know Kane did want to come back, but I thought that's what it was. I know there's been a lot of reports, and like you said, but I just think it was the right. I think it was the right move for the Rangers not to go out and get him. And I know it's only a 1-year deal, and it was 2.75, and a lot of people are saying, "Oh, why can't the Rangers do that?" That's pretty cheap. But when you start the season out like this, and I know that Kakko did get injured, you really don't want to change it up that much early into the season. I know it'd be a little different if it was at the deadline, and even at that point, I probably still wouldn't want it to happen. But this early into the season, you really don't want to make a change like that to your team. But I don't know. I'm happy that this is over because I couldn't stand everyone talking about him. It was getting tiring, very tiring.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still having a hard time figuring out how I feel about it because, like I said, I was always very middle of the ground. Whereas, like, I don't care that he went to Detroit. I know like Detroit and Buffalo were the two big front runners, but it's just one of those things that frustrates me. Where I'm like, if the Rangers really wanted to make it happen, they could have. And it was the same thing for Tarasenko last year, or not last year, just this past offseason as well, where I believe there was like mutual interest between the Rangers and Tarasenko, but they said they didn't have the cap to make it work. And then Tarasenko signed a relatively cheap deal with Ottawa. And then, back in the day, I would have said, like, why wouldn't you have made all of those signings that you did? Like the Bonino and Pitlick signings. I love, all those cheap 1-year deals, but in exchange for Blake Wheeler and Tarasenko, I'm choosing Tarasenko. And they were like, obviously Gustafsson was another good signing. Quick was another good signing, but there were like 2 or 3 or 4 more that if you just removed from the equation would have left enough cap space for Vladimir Tarasenko. And I still do think that he could be another potential trade deadline target, but it's way too early to discuss that.
Oh, man.
Come back in a few months, and I know me and Will have a lot to say because we text about it a lot. But leave your comments if you want to hear about it now, because we will do it.
Oh, I will do it right now.
We text about it very frequently. But I don't know. There's like, I personally just, I'm indifferent about it. I would have loved to see Patrick Kane have another shot at it at full health with a different roster. But at the same time, I also understand why the Rangers decided not to pursue it. We have our team. Everything is going well. Adding star power to the mix isn't always a solution, as we saw last year. And I do think the Rangers should stick with what they have working for themselves. But that pretty much finishes everything that we had to discuss today. It's been a very busy 2 days for the New York Rangers. As you can tell by this video, the Rangers took a devastating loss to Buffalo. Really should have won that, but we didn't. Then Kakko,
that was
devastating again.
That was so devastating. In a terrible game, that was just like, that was the final straw.
That's the word of the day, is devastating. I won't use that word for the Patrick Kane signing to Detroit, but it is something that happened that we did need to address. So that about covers everything. We'll be sure to continue to cover the Rangers throughout the remainder of the season. As I said earlier, there is a very strong likelihood that the Rangers might be playing against Patrick Kane tomorrow night against Detroit, assuming he's in Detroit and is ready to play. I guess we'll figure that out tomorrow because, God forbid the NHL ever gives us any updates about anything right away.
They can't do that. It's too hard.
We'll be covering the game either way on all of our socials at Fireside Rangers on both Instagram and X. Be sure to like and subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss a notification if you're watching us on Spotify or Apple Music. Be sure to give us a 5-star review, and be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comment section below on yesterday's game, Patrick Kane signing with Detroit, and Kaapo Kakko, and Philip Heel being assigned to the LTIR. But that about covers this discussion. We'll be back with more content tomorrow. Have a good night, and
let's go Rangers.
Rangers.